Welcome to the Coffee Journeys show, hosted by me, Piotr Zagorowski, author of the Coffee Journeys blog. In this show, I'll be sharing my journey from being a technical person to a leader and discussing topics such as leadership, technology, and intentional living. I'll be sharing my unique perspective and insights and offering guidance on how to develop the skills and mindset needed to succeed in today's world. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a technology enthusiast, or simply looking to learn more about the world around you, this podcast is for you. So, join me for the engaging and thought-provoking conversations on leadership, technology, and intentional living on the Coffee Journeys show. Today, we are going to talk about routines. A lot of people write and talk about the power of habits and routines. There are a lot of fantastic blog posts on this topic, especially now around the beginning of the new year. Personally, I am a great fan of creating, maintaining, and reviewing a set of good habits. They help us to automate a lot of things and, when set correctly, help with achieving our goals. Today, however, I would like to take a look at this topic from slightly different perspective and challenge things a little bit and explore the question, is routine a good thing or a bad thing? So, plan for today, I will share some true story to illustrate the power of routine and how our brain operates. We'll dive to some theory about human brain. And on this point, I will introduce my lovely assistant to get some information about most complicated compute machine in the universe. That's obviously our brain. And finally, we'll conclude and list some lessons learned from this journey. Let's dive in to story of a young rock climber who followed her routine to achieve her dreams. Natalie was in a good mood. She woke up early morning and was doing her stretch routine. She ate a small breakfast and drove to the registration point. It was her dream. She had been preparing for this for a long time. She dreamed to be a professional rock climber. And here she was. She completed all admin routine and stood in front of high hill where competition took place. Next, she went through her checklist for the last time, breathed deeply, fresh air, and started climbing. She didn't know she wasn't going to finish this wall, and in fact, she would need to stop her career as a professional climber. For now, Natalie was pushing hard. Everything was going well. The weather was perfect. She was prepared. She designed and implemented a perfect routine, and now it all was paying off. Around 1/3 of the path, she felt sharp pain in the shoulder. She stopped for a moment, but only to catch the breath. She stretched for a moment and decided to carry on. In the end, she was secured by a rope, so it was relatively safe to push on her limits. Unfortunately, the pain was not going away. In fact, it was even more annoying with the time. As a result, she was putting more stress on a good arm. It was not long after when she miscalculated distance and strength left in her arms. She didn't manage to hold the cold rock and slipped from the wall. She was expecting sharp large from the safety rope, but it wasn't coming. Something was not good. She woke up in a hospital. She was in bad shape. Doctors were sharing news in small doses. She would need to stop her career as a professional climber. She would be lucky if she was going to walk. Long and painful rehab routine was ahead of her. However, for now, to keep her mind busy, she was analyzing what went wrong. Why safety rope did not work. After some time of retrospective analytics and a bit of help from her friends, she concluded what had happened. Her routine was good. It normally worked just fine. with one exception. It didn't assume tying her shoelaces before checking and tying safety ropes. During that ill-fated morning, she needed to do her shoelaces. It was enough for her brain to tick it as the next point of her checklist, so she went to do the next one. As a result, she went to her first serious competition with confidence, pushing hard on her limits, but in fact missing the most important component of her safety. When things went bad with her shoulder, she fell down, and only by miracle she was alive. She recovered and was able to climb again, but this is topic for another coffee journey. Today I focus on routine that is in general positive thing, but can actually go wrong if you don't have any safety mechanisms. Let's explore some theory about how our brain functions. In a nutshell, we have actually 3 brains. Although sometimes I wonder and question if we have even one, but that's digression. But anyhow, before we go there, I would like to introduce my lovely assistant. In fact, why don't she introduce herself?
Hi, my name is Droidella McElectron. I am a synthetically generated voice assistant. Together with my cousin ChatGPT, we are going to take over this podcast and in fact the whole interwebs one day.
Okay, maybe something less intimidating?
Yes, you can call me Droidy.
Right, Droidy, let's stick to the script. You have some information about brain, correct?
Yes, of course. The human brain is the most irrational thing in the universe.
Droidy, stick to the script, please.
Yes, there we go. The human brain is a complex and intricate organ, made up of various parts that all play important roles in our daily lives. 3 of these parts include the limbic system, prefrontal cortex, and basal ganglia.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with the limbic system.
The limbic system is responsible for regulating our emotions and memories. It is also involved in the processing of pleasure and pain, as well as our sense of smell. Every day, we use the limbic system when we feel happy or sad, when we remember events or people, and when we are attracted to certain smells. For example, we may feel happy when we see a loved one, remember a fond memory, or smell a pleasant fragrance.
So, to sum up, the limbic system tracks your emotional relationship to people, objects, events and thoughts. Determines how you feel about the world from the moment to another moment. It is a world of subtle choices, and it's determined to minimize danger and maximize reward. Next on our list is prefrontal cortex. Droidy, what do we have here?
Certainly. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain responsible for higher-level thinking, such as decision-making, problem-solving, and planning. We use the prefrontal cortex every day when we make decisions about what to do or where to go, when we solve problems or puzzles, and when we plan for the future. For example, we may use the prefrontal cortex when we decide what to wear for the day, when we figure out how to fix a broken object, or when we plan a vacation.
Summarizing prefrontal cortex. It is responsible for all our rational thinking. Main functions: memorizing, recalling, understanding, deciding, inhibiting. And finally, the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia are a group of structures in the brain that are involved in the control of movement and coordination. We use the basal ganglia every day when we walk, run, or engage in physical activities. For example, we may use the basal ganglia when we play sports, dance, or do household chores.
To sum up, basal ganglia recognizes stories and repeats patterns, is perfect with if this then that functions, pick up patterns even without conscious awareness. And I'm going to pause here. Do you remember the story from the beginning? Natalie allowed certain pattern and she did not include tying her laces. Droidy, Any conclusions?
In conclusion, the limbic system, prefrontal cortex, and basal ganglia are all important parts of the brain that play crucial roles in our daily lives. From regulating our emotions and memories to higher-level thinking and movement control, these parts of the brain help us navigate the world around us and make informed decisions.
Yes, indeed. Amount of input information that our brain needs to process these days is amazing.
Some studies show the human brain is loaded daily with 34 gigabytes of information to be precise.
Yes, thanks. And to employ logic to all of them is virtually impossible. And this is why our brain is trying to help us by simplifying things and automate as much as possible. This is great power and it normally works. It is important to be aware of this system and help to develop habits and routines that will serve you. This is because we all have our routines even if we don't think about them. It is good to perform kind of routine inventory every so often to get rid of bad habits or routines that don't serve you anymore and make sure you switch them to more useful, targeted to your new goals. This could be done during your annual review, for instance. However, this topic is a topic for another journey. For today, let's conclude and highlight some lessons learned during this coffee journey. Habits and routine are good and are our friends. However, we need to review them, pay attention if they still serve us.
We have 3 parts of our brain inherited after our predecessors, each responsible for different functions. It is good to be aware of them, take attention, be more self-aware of our actions.
It is good to have some sort of safety mechanisms to double-check on things that are crucial to our health, self-being, and so on. I wonder, what is your view on habits and routines? Do you review them on a regular basis? Maybe you want to create a new habit this year. You can find me on Twitter at Piotr Zagorowski or send me an email via hey@coffeejourneys.blog. And this is all I have for you today. I value feedback a lot. That's why I ask you to review my podcast in your favorite podcasting platform and give it as many stars as you think it deserves. By doing so, this podcast is going to be more visible and I can reach more people to provide value. And before you go, if you would like to join the community of people who are determined to help each other and grow together, join my newsletter at coffeejourneys.blog/newsletter. Thanks for tuning in today, and until next time, have a great day.